You're listening to From the Chair, and I'm your host, Mike Hamilton. Join us each episode as we talk to athletic directors from across America. We're going to talk about topics like leadership, career development, issues of the day, and I can promise you we're going to have some fun along the way too. So sit back, listen in, and let's dive in. Let's go. All right, welcome in. Joining me today from sunny Miami, Florida International University Athletic Director Scott Carr. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great, Mike. Thanks so much for having me on. And as you said, it is nice and sunny out.
Always nice there. We have 96-degree temperatures in Nashville today. It's bizarre, and wow. a little unusual. Hey, man, thank you so much for joining me. And we've got a lot of good things to kind of talk about. And I thought, I'll come off the top just visiting with you about something that you probably would expect me to ask, and that's about the fact that you are an athletic director who had a father that was an athletic director. And, over the course of these interviews over the last year plus, I've had the chance to interview Rick Hart, and I've had the chance to interview Greg Byrne, and I've had the chance to interview Danny White. And today we've got you, and obviously your dad, long history in this industry, very well respected. Certainly most folks younger probably know him from the search and consulting business, but equally so, he had a long career as athletic director at Florida and Houston. I'm assuming that played a significant role in you deciding that you wanted to do this as a career, but maybe also somewhere along the way he said, "Are you sure about that?" So maybe unwrap a little bit of the dynamics around what life looked like as it related to you entering athletic administration along the way.
Absolutely. No, you're right. It's very special, right? And I love how you rattled off some of those other father-son combinations. Obviously, Brian White as well with Kevin right up the road here at FAU. But it's a special fraternity, I guess you could call it. We may need to have special dinner get-togethers. I'll let Danny pick up the tab, but we may need to have some special get-togethers with that group of folks you just mentioned. But yeah, it's great when your dad is also your mentor, right? I mean, I think that's just an extra special bond. It was something for me growing up. Normal was not knowing where you were going to spend Christmas until bowl selection Sunday. That's when you knew where you were going to go for Christmas, right? And normal for me spending time with my dad was Sunday after church, maybe going to a golf tournament or a swim meet. And that was just special time with my dad. I've got 4 other siblings, so 5 total kids in our family. I chose college athletics. To your point, Mike, I just loved college athletics from the time I was a kid. I never really thought of anything else. My other 4 siblings ran completely opposite directions of college athletics. They all stayed out of it, right? The White family, they all ran to it. The Carr family ran away from it, except for me. I tell everybody that if you saw my SAT scores and GRE scores, you'd probably know why I stuck with college athletics. No other industry was going to take me. But it's one of those where I love it. Somebody asked me a couple months ago if I wasn't an athletic director or wasn't in college athletics, what would I do? And they stumped me on that question. I said, I have no idea. I've never thought about doing anything else. So just absolutely love it. Love impacting the lives of young people. That's my purpose in life, is to positively impact the lives of others. And I choose to do it through college athletics. And my dad loves that I'm in it. I think he lives vicariously through me now, that he's semi-retired and sold his company. So we have some great conversations, and there were some times growing up at Christmas or something, I may have to say, "Hey, Dad, can we just talk about the grandkids and Christmas presents? And we'll talk about college athletics tomorrow on December 26th. But we had a great time. And the last piece to it, as you mentioned, for years, he would joke that he did everything he could to talk me out of it, but I just wouldn't listen. So here I am sitting in the chair. But we joke that way. But obviously the two of us absolutely love this industry and love impacting young people.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that's special story to have that connection with your family. A lot of folks don't have that, as you know. Look, and let's be clear, you have plowed your own ground in this business and have an excellent reputation, particularly on the external side of the business. And for me, in my exposure to you, I guess it was primarily at Auburn and then at UCF, and you were a Southern Miss before that. Isn't that correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
So we met when I was for SEC times, right?
Yes, that's exactly right. So anyway, long history together, and you have certainly paid your dues and have made a name for yourself and how you've gone, not only what you've done, Scott, but how you've gone about it. And so please take that as a compliment. Tell me why.
Thank you.
Why was Florida International the right one for you?
Sure. A lot of similarities to UCF in a sense of a huge alumni base, obviously in the state of Florida, but a huge alumni base. We have 260,000 living alums, and 80% of them are in the Tri-County area, between West Palm and Broward and Dade. And, I just saw the potential. The youth at FIU were, we just, yesterday, we're celebrating our 50th year of classes being held at FIU. We just a couple of weeks ago, we got to legal drinking age as a football program. We just turned 21, right? So as a football program, and so I just think the youthfulness of it is something that really encourages me. The blank canvas, so to speak, with that youth, it's the opportunity to build tradition instead of sometimes being choked by tradition, right? Tradition in college athletics is a wonderful, wonderful thing. But I prefer to be on the side of creating the tradition rather than sometimes inheriting it. So a lot of traditions that can be created here. And so I just saw it as a wonderful opportunity to come in and really make an impact. I've lived in Miami for 4 years right out of college when I worked at the Orange Bowl committee. So I was familiar with the area, still had some really good friends down in this area. So I'd always pay attention to it. And just saw it as a wonderful opportunity, a gold mine, if you will, right? Just that sleeping giant that just needed to be awakened. And so really excited to get things going down here. And it's everything that I thought it would be and more.
That's great. Well, so you mentioned the relatively young university, 50 years and 21 years as a football program. I want to riff off of that for just a second. So obviously you saw and were a part of a UCF program that had exponential growth, and I'm not asking you to say how UCF and FIU are the same necessarily. I'm just basically laying that down as a marker of your experience to maybe inform some of your decisions, candidly, and that would be expected. So, but what have you seen now from what you've observed that maybe says to you, hey, we're right on pace for this, or we're ahead of pace? And then what are the things that you feel like, hey, we've got ground to make up in these 2 or 3 key areas?
Sure, I think so. Starting to your point on the side of those positives and where we're on pace, I was really pleased with the staff that was here when I got here. You always have to tip your hat to the person that was in the chair before you, because you're certainly going to see the things that they didn't get done, but you're not going to see a lot of times that all that they did get done, and all the ground that they had to plow, right? So I'm very appreciative to Pete Garcia and what he did here, and just the support that he's given me since I got here. So I'm very appreciative of that. He put together a great staff here. So I was really pleasantly surprised, especially on the executive staff with the talent that was here. So I thought that was great. Very pleased. You and I both know it can be really challenging especially at new universities in metropolitan cities to have an on-campus stadium, right? The fact that we have an on-campus football stadium, it's a great stadium. It seats 20,000. We have suites. We have a club area, some other areas that can be premium areas as well. So it's a great stadium for today, and a stadium that we can expand and build on in the future. So I thought that was great. And we do have a lot of fans, or a lot of people down here that are really passionate about FIU. They really love their experience as students here at FIU, and so that I think is a real positive. We've gone out to some different alumni events. I was in Washington, D.C. last week, and there was over 100 alums that were at an event up there, and they were just, thrilled about FIU and their experience. And so that kind of segues a little bit into some of the challenges or some of the areas that we're going to need to get a little better in, and that's converting some of that, I'm going to call it Panther proud to Panther pride, right? They're proud of FIU, but we're so young in football and so young in Division I FBS athletics that it's really getting all those alums to really have that pride in the athletics programs, that pride in the football team that is so young. That's something that is we've got a lot of ground to make up there to get them involved. And one example, is a little bit of a surprise when our we've only had one person at the time in our development office, and he came to me and mentioned that he was wanting to get the Panther Club going. And I thought he was talking about a kids club. And I was telling him, that's great. I love kids clubs. And he said, no, an annual fund. So I was a little surprised that we did not even have an annual fund in place at the time. So we just got that launched a couple of weeks ago, the Panther Club. And so now it's really just that education. It's educating some people down here on the Panther Club because they're just not real familiar with what that is. This is Miami is certainly more of a professional mind city with so many professional sports down here, and so they think about a ticket, right? You buy a club ticket, you buy a general admission ticket, you buy whatever ticket it is, and then maybe you buy a parking pass. And so we're educating them a little bit on what the Panther Club is and how that works. So that's an area that's a little bit further behind than what I thought when I came in here. But again, just a lot of opportunities. We're working on a strategic plan now. We're going to work on some facility master planning and just lots of opportunities that, as you can tell, energize and excite me.
Yeah. So it's interesting. You mentioned, not having had maybe a firm development foundation from an annual giving standpoint. And I was thinking about when you're talking about having 100 people together in DC. My assumption is that you're largely recruiting out of the South Florida area because it's so talent rich. My assumption is also I think it's almost 300,000 alumni for the university now. I would assume most of those folks stay in the South Florida area. And so, there's certainly a geographic messaging opportunity there. And you've already alluded to the professional sports in Miami, but let's be candid. There's also, it's an international city, right? And so many things that you can do. The beach is there every day. Beach is not going away, right? And most days it's going to be really sunny and really nice. So how do you find given that you do have thousands of alumni in the area, but yet there are all these other challenges. How do you find your niche in that marketplace as being, hey, this is worthy of your time, your efforts, your dollars, and we're right here in the middle of you?
Yes, absolutely. Well, and like I tell people down here all the time, we're competing with the sun, right? I mean, when the sun is out and it's nice, whether it's the beach or whether it's a nice outdoor patio where somebody's going to have lunch or have some drinks, there's just so much to do down here. Professional sports, other college sports, there's just a lot to do here. So it is a very crowded, very busy marketplace. But where I really see the opportunity is, as you mentioned, we do have, again, it's around 260,000 alum that are down in this area, because so many of our students, they're local and they stay local, which is wonderful. And so it's really a matter of just getting them engaged and getting them energized. And so it really starts, there's not just a short-term fix or a quick fix. As I've mentioned to a lot of people down here, it starts with the student body today. It really starts with getting them engaged today. Coach McIntyre and I spent a lot of time since we got hired going out and talking to our students on campus, working on holding events for them. We had an event the first day of classes that night. We called it the first night event. It was over here at the football stadium, had a little over 3,000 students that came over, and we had a chance to talk to them and personally invite them to the football game the next week. And those efforts paid off. Our first home football game on a Thursday night, we had almost 4,500 students that came and attended our game. So we were very pleased with that. And so it really starts with the students, getting them engaged in we'll just talk football for a minute, getting them engaged in the football program and football games, so that when they become alums, they want to come back. So with the alums that are currently out there, it's really just a matter of going out and getting them, sitting down with them, meeting them, working our databases. I mean, I haven't met someone down here who wasn't enthusiastic about FIU athletics and wanting it to be better. And so it's just a matter of getting them engaged. So many of them weren't here when we had a football program, or maybe they weren't here when we were playing Division I baseball or playing Division I basketball, right? So it's really just continuing to work the community, myself and Mike McIntyre and Jeremy Ballard and all of our coaches getting out there, because they're all close, right? They can drive to any of our events, which is really where a huge opportunity is for us.
Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about that in the context of your strategic plan in just a moment, but I've got an interim question related to, getting on the ground and starting to run. And I think it's always important in anything you're doing in leadership to, if you're new and you're trying to figure out the landscape and advance the ball, to do what I call incremental win stacking. And what I mean by that is I'm not necessarily talking about the wins on the field and on the court, so that can certainly be a part of it. But I read where you came in and very early in your tenure, you spent $200,000 across a number of sports to help with some immediate needs that those sports had. And that shows your student athletes, your coaches, hey, I see you. I realize that you've got some needs that need to be addressed, and I'm going to address those now. And then yet there's more to come. Talk about your philosophy around why you chose to do that.
Sure, absolutely. Well, again, we know that there's Panther alums out there that are passionate, and within about the first 6 weeks or so, it was maybe 6 or 8 weeks, we had 5 donors that committed $50,000 a year over a 5-year period, right? So we knew that we wanted to move the needle right away, show the student athletes that we care about them. And so what we did was we identified some areas. We had a chance to talk to some student athletes. Quite frankly, when I got here, it didn't take me very long to learn from our student athletes that they really wanted us to do a little bit more in our nutrition area, to just, just with some snacks and some other things like that. So we identified those areas. When I toured the facilities, like you asked in the question earlier, there were some facilities here. Let's just talk locker rooms that exceeded my expectations. I didn't think they were going to be as nice as they were. And then there were some locker rooms that of course needed help, needed some upgrades. And so we identified those. And so there was about 5 or 6 of our teams whose locker rooms, whether it was some carpet and some paint and some LED lighting and some tile in some different walkway areas, just to dress those up and just make them look nicer. It wasn't a complete remodel of the locker rooms, but it was something that was going to be very noticeable to our student athletes, to where they would see that the direction that we're headed in. So we wanted to make sure that we had that impact on our student athletes. All right. The first focus of that first $200,000 was, how can we most impact the most student athletes? So we knew nutrition would do that for everybody. We also did some upgrades in our weight room with some benches and some upholstery in there, and some new weight bars and some of those types of things that our student athletes, we knew that they would see that we had done that as well. So we really wanted to invest where our student athletes would see it and feel it the most. So we did that on the front end there in the first few months.
That's good. So now you've been in a strategic planning process, and I'm not exactly sure where you are in that, in terms of like, just, are you finished or still have work to do? But obviously that's an important part of setting forth your vision and the university's vision for where athletics will go at FIU. Where are you in that process, and maybe point to a couple of findings or priorities as you work your way through that?
Absolutely. So for the folks that'll end up seeing this, it's September 20th, right? So just to give them a point of reference, we're hoping to unveil that strategic plan in January, but strategic plans are like construction, right? So let's say February, right? Just, everything's going to take a little bit longer. It's funny you ask, because Gerald Odell, who's helping us with that strategic plan, is literally on campus as we speak. When I get done with this call, he and I are going to recap the day, and he's in town again tomorrow, meeting with a lot of our constituents on the plan. So really excited about the plan. It's the way I'm wired is I really want to have a plan. I want to have that roadmap. I want to have goals. I want to have accountability for everybody, including myself, of how we're going to achieve that. And let's just go attack it and start checking off all those goals and strategies that we set up. So really excited about that. Part of the strategic plan is also going to deal with facilities and the facility enhancements that we need. So we'll end up having a corporate campaign, or a capital campaign for our facilities here. That's something we're going to need to do. Again, I've already mentioned the on-campus football stadium, which is just a gem. So that's wonderful. We have that, but there's some other facilities that we need to do some things with. We even need to do a little bit with our football stadium as well, but really excited to get that strategic plan out and going. And one thing I do want to mention as well, that kind of ties these past two questions together, is something that we identified pretty early, was the fact that we really needed to get good in building our brand, and we really needed to be good in building our revenues, right? I mean, you could probably say that at any school you go to, but we really saw that was some needs here. So something that we did even without the strategic plan and fairly early on, is we identified, instead of just having one person over external, let's have a CRO and a CMO, right? So we can have somebody that is every day is focused on revenue, and someone that every day is focused on building our brand. So we were able to get that done. And Alex Kelly, who was here already, he's our CRO, overseeing that area. and we brought in Dan Forcella from UCF, somebody I worked with for a long time there. And obviously he knows my thoughts, and I know his thoughts on how we need to aggressively build brands in these types of markets, because we did it together for back there in Orlando. So we've been able to add some staff. We literally just got fully staffed in the communication and marketing side a week ago with just some social media and some video people and some of our SIDs where we had some positions available. So we're really excited about being able to grow the brand and show our coaches and our student athletes that what we're doing to help them. And then at the same time, as we go to getting engagement from our alumni and fans and getting them back, again, 50-year-old university, we have a lot of younger alums. Social media is a great platform that we can really use to our advantage to help build our fan base, which will build our donor base and get that engagement from our alums.
All right, let's shift gears to hiring for just a minute. Athletic directors are known for a lot of things, but hiring and firing of coaches are often one of the things that fans look to, at least. And it's kind of an interesting time, Scott, if you think about, I'll just name 4 institutions off the top of my head where AD hires and football coach hires were almost made in the same, like literally weeks of each other, or maybe even days of each other. You know, you had Mario and Dan at Miami, you had Travis and Lance at Kansas, you had Danny and Josh at Tennessee, and then you had you and Mike at FIU, right? So that's not the normal. Jeremiah went through that at Boise State as well, as I'm thinking back. That's not the normal, at least historically, not the normal course of action. You're benefited by being around the industry for a long time. You've seen searches and how that all works, obviously. What did and by the way, in Mike McIntyre, though I don't know him personally, I know a lot of people that do, and certainly a guy who's been a head coach, San Jose State, Colorado, been defensive coordinator a number of places, and very highly regarded, not only in coaching circles, but as a human, right, as a person. And so tell me how you landed on Mike McIntyre, but first tell me how you sequenced your work or how you went about your work, given that those things had to happen very quickly.
Yes, absolutely. So to your point, it was certainly unique to come in and have a press conference and the next day crank up a football search. But it's actually something I think was great. I prefer that. I think, you as a former AD would probably say, I'd probably prefer to be able to hire, and to be attached at the hip from day one, especially with your football coach, right? So it was unique. And there was certainly pros and cons to it, in the sense of, if I had my choice, I would want to do that every time, right? Just because you're able to get the person that you really feel is the right person for you and for your institution. And obviously, I am 100% behind Mike McIntyre. He's phenomenal. We'll talk about him in a minute. But it can also bring a challenge, in the sense of, you've got your 90-day plan. You're trying to meet your staff. You're trying to meet donors. You're trying to build relationships with people on campus. And basically what you do is, for that 7 days, which felt like 70 days, you're pretty much on hold. You're really, I had the press conference, had a reception with some people on campus, tried to shake some hands, say hello to some folks. And I'm walking out of that reception and calling Chad Chatlos, who actually handled both searches, right? So I'm calling Chad and saying, okay, who are you looking at? Here's some people that I've got on my short list. Let's put them in the mix and let's start setting up interviews tomorrow, right? And I'm having to figure out real quickly and talk to the president, and is there anybody that you want me to have involved in this search, or can I just go do it? So that goes to another pro, as you know from doing coaching searches.
Yeah.
That first week on the job, there were very few people that had my cell phone number that were tied to FIU, right? So I had an opportunity to do a search without as much noise as you can say, right? When I did the baseball search here more recently, I got a lot more calls and text messages for people that wanted to help. We'll call it that, help me with my search. But the football search was great, and so being able to go into it right out of the chute was huge, because it just brought a ton of energy. Having a new athletic director, a new football coach, the fan base was just really energized. Like they always are when you have a new hire. It was twofold. So it was great. As you talk about Mike McIntyre specifically, you've already nailed it. I hired a phenomenal human being first. and a great football coach second. He's a great football coach. He turned around San Jose State. He turned around Colorado. Rebuilds there. We certainly are in that same place here to get a rebuild done. We really enjoyed what he had to say about those rebuilds, but even more importantly, what he had to say about who he was as a person and the way that he was going to have his culture for his coaches and for his team, the way he was going to hire coaches, the way he was going to treat his players, where he was with academics, where he was with everything, just checked every box that I had, and I couldn't be more thrilled to have him as our head football coach for sure.
All right, last couple questions here. First of all, a lot of movement in the last 2 years on conference realignment and different schools falling in different places, and maybe rivals not conference rivals anymore. Maybe now they're going to be non-conference rivals, and you guys are steady member there in Conference USA. You had some new and interesting schools added. Give me the lay of the land now with the ability to sort of have a retrospect on all that's transpired and where you guys are in that process.
Sure, absolutely. Well, very excited about what we'll call the new Conference USA. Really excited for what we'll be looking at starting in fall of 23. Have some great programs that are a part of it, some great teams, institutions that will be joining us. So we're really excited about that. I think, we've got some strength. I think we'll be able to build a strong brand as a conference. I think we'll have some really good television partners. We're working through that right now for what that'll look like in fall of 23. But I'm very encouraged with some of the dialogue that's going on there. So really looking forward to that. And I think it's going to be really good for us. Obviously for us, we'd love to continue to compete with FAU as much as we can, just with the proximity and the rivalry that we have there with them. But really excited about the new Conference USA. I think we're going to play some really good football. We've got some great football coaches. When I was at the spring meetings there back in May, was really excited about the football coaching staff that we have and the basketball coaches and the basketball teams that we have. I think we have some really strong basketball teams, and we'll be a strong league there, and certainly in baseball as well. I think we're going to be a really strong baseball league. We've added Dallas Baptist to the league. So they'll obviously they bring some great brand and name recognition right out of the chute. So strong across the board. I think so many other programs, whether it's beach volleyball, women's basketball, softball, a lot of the sports are going to be really strong. Our tennis program is a great program, and I think we got some good tennis programs in our league as well. So it's going to be a really good league, great academics, and so just really excited to get cranked up with Conference USA. Love the teams that are in the league this year as well, but really looking forward to getting the group together for next year and getting started.
Yeah. So I'm not going to ask you to name names unless you want to, but I think it's kind of interesting. When you become an AD and you have a lot of people telling you how you ought to do your job, and you'll eventually get to the point where a lot of people are telling you you're not doing your job and all those things. And I think it's really critical to have a group of people around you that can, you can lean on to ask questions of and know you're going to get honest feedback. And, I tried to have a group of folks that were that for me that had no affiliation with the University of Tennessee. They cared about Mike Hamilton as a person, right? And then I had a group of fellow athletic directors that we and our spouses got to know each other, and we sort of had this camaraderie and info share, and we had a sort of all hands in the middle. We may be competitors, but we're coming together for support and opportunity to dialogue. It wasn't collusion or anything like that. It was mainly just how do we get better, right? And I felt like that was a critical piece of my growth as a leader. What are you doing as it relates to trying to stay informed, trying to make sure you have the right people around you to speak truth to you, give you support? Because Scott, if you don't know this, and I think you probably do, you'll learn it pretty early. These can become lonely jobs pretty quickly if you don't find that, right? So if you don't mind sharing, are you there yet on that front? Do you feel like you've got that support system?
Well, what I'll tell you, Mike, and I mean this, it may sound a little bit like I'm half joking, and maybe I am, but it's an area that I always need to improve on because I cheat a little bit because of my dad.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I probably lean on him too much. to be quite honest with you, because I know that he's always going to be honest with me. I know that he's got my best interest in heart. There's no doubt there, the trust factor, right? And so I probably lean on him too much, as far as wearing him out with phone calls. But of course, he loves it. He wants to give me the feedback. But absolutely, I mean, I know I can pick up the phone and call Terry Mahajer, call Danny White, call Jay Jacobs, right? Call Richard Giannetti. Those are all the ADs that I work for over the years of my career. I know that I can pick up the phone and call. We're so close. We love each other so much. Eric Wood at Louisiana Tech. We're in the same conference together, but he's my brother. And we'll call each other and talk through whatever we need to talk through. We worked together as deputy ADs for 5 years, a little over 5 years. So we're going to do that. But there are so many people in this business that I could name that they're going to pick up the phone or call me right back and do whatever they can to help. It's those relationships. And then, of course, I'll return the favor if I can with anybody. Brent Jones at Troy is another person that I talk to just a ton and get information from him. But to your point, Mike, definitely have those people out there that you've got to lean on. I need to do a better job of grabbing a few more people that I talk to more often than just Bill Carr. But definitely have some folks out there that I know have my best interest at heart and are just going to shoot me straight and tell me what I need to hear rather than what I want to hear.
Keep doing that, man. Keep doing that.
Yes.
That's great stuff. Hey, look, thanks for joining me. This has been a great conversation. It's gone by fast. Hopefully it didn't throw you any curveballs. And so appreciate your time this week, Scott.
Well, no, thank you so much, Mike. I appreciate the time and giving me this platform.
No doubt, man. All right. You've been listening to Scott Carr, the athletic director at Florida International University. This is Mike Hamilton. I'm your host from the chair. We hope you'll listen across all your audio podcast platforms every Wednesday or view it on YouTube. And we'll see you next time.